Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Good morning, Doge-loving fascists.
Well, I mean, yeah, why not?
Starting over. It's going to be a little rough.
Yeah. We're working. That's a work in progress.
Yeah.
All
they
right.
they're not fond of the Doge over there on the other side. They're in favor of waste, fraud, and abuse. It's odd, but it's true.
Yeah. All right. As you can see, we're doing a little more casual from our more buttoned down setting here, but this time I'm traveling instead of Brian. So I have one white shirt, but I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do it.
I hear you.
Mainly because, my wife always complains about how cold it is in our house. And I do admit I keep the temperatures on the low side in our house. But since my brother-in-law, where we're staying, is out of the house basically all day long, they run minimal heat. So where I am sitting right now, actually there's a vent here, which is good, but it's really frigid. So I'm glad I'm basically wearing like 3 layers here to stay warm during the show, but it works. I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the weather's getting better, so it's good.
Yeah. Not really so much here. Kind of drizzly.
Temperature?
Yeah, it drove to 40s, 50s. It's not too cold, but it's wet.
So here we are in Utah, and let me do this. This was this was good. I mean, we hit Utah, and I mean it's like in the 40s, but with the sun. I mean, people are running around with their shorts, short sleeves. The kind of thing.
That's true here. It's like it got us used to being cold, and now like the 40s is quite warm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's nice to be somewhere else sometimes, and I'm waiting for it to warm up outside before I really want to venture out or anything like that. I think it's when it gets cold, it gets cold.
That's right. Yeah, I got some serious cold out there.
Yeah, and I think as you saw in the picture, we have they've had a decent amount of snow, and I'm looking out a window here. I'm kind of surrounded by mountains. I can see mountains around here as well. So which makes it really pretty. When we flew in, it was just gorgeous to see the snow-capped mountains and everything like that. So it's not a place I necessarily want to live. I'm just too much set in my ways, but it's nice to visit.
Yeah, it's a nice place out there.
All right, I guess there's some things going on these days out there in DC.
And my wife is like, whatever will y'all talk about?
I have no idea from week to week what we're going to be talking about. All right, so anyway, our usual. So now we've passed the 3-year mark now, 3-year anniversary on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Though Trump seems to have backed off on terms of, is this really Russia's fault? That type of a thing, and that narrative.
That's the way it gets. That's the narrative, as you say. But I mean, we're trying to negotiate a peace agreement, right, with Russia. Ukraine, they can participate, but they're not. They're not who's going to decide how this goes down. So that's the moment the Ukraine delegation to the UN chooses to introduce a resolution that condemns Russia. So are they or are they not undermining, sabotaging the deal, right? I mean, I don't blame Trump for being mad about that, because they're trying to work out something that ends the suffering, gives you a chance back to normalcy. Trump is, he's duty bound not to give away the store to Russia, as the left always says he will, and he won't. I guess today I believe it's this afternoon, Zelensky will be in Washington to sign an agreement over the rare earth minerals in Ukraine. So that means the American companies are going to be in Ukraine operating to mine, remove, harvest these minerals, right? And that's pretty good reason that Trump won't want Ukraine harmed any further, right? The idea that you're going to roll back, Donbass to the Ukrainians, and you're going to have the same sovereign lines you had before any of this started, I think is a little fanciful. And I don't even think it's something that Ukraine is really in Ukraine's interest, right? They lost, and they're going to, you want to dislodge Russia from those areas, right? A lot of the people who live there don't want you to do that. They want the Russians instead of you. And B, you could, you're starting a nuclear war, a wider conflict. You bogged down in this for decades, right? Trying to move Russia 200 miles to the east in Ukraine, right? Whereas if you have U.S. interest over there extracting minerals, I think that the Russians can't really make the case for going any further, right? At this point, they stick with what they have in the east. They stick with their path to Crimea, and they're set for a while. I think the notion that they're going to reassemble the Warsaw Pact is ridiculous, right? I think that they don't have the resources, they don't have the manpower, especially after this. You do have to give the Ukrainians a lot of credit for stringing them out, for giving them a good fight, for innovating, right? We're going to learn, each war teaches us some stuff about warfare, right? So we've learned some warfare here. It's a new age, like the use of drones, use of AI on the battlefield, so forth. War has changed as a result of this particular war, and it'll never go back. So, there's new things to consider here. And, the Ukrainians have a nice fleet of drones, but the Russians, are rushing to build them and to get North Korea. They're trying to set up North Korea to be able to mass produce, killer drones, so to speak. So, I think that the deal is to see where this goes. And I think that, the idea of undermining it was not bright. I think Trump is offering them an off-ramp today, and he should take it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I think no matter how this really winds up settling out in the end, I think there are going to be a number of people, myself included to a certain degree, at least. It's just that, there is a clear fact that this was not Ukraine that started this thing.
Well, they didn't fire the first shots, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
But I'm in the camp that this is Russian aggression, not Ukraine. Ukraine just they had already pretty much given up on Crimea for the most part. I mean, I think they would love to have it back, but the thought of attacking the Russians would be sheer folly. The numbers just aren't there. But to have that, and then and to have the UN Security Council to back this resolution, that's, to me, is a pro-Putin type of a thing. I think that's kind of sad. But I understand. I mean, what you're saying there about what our grander goal is in the end, I think that carries some validity and some weight. I mean, I hadn't even thought until this had come up here recently about these rare earth minerals type of thing like that. This would be good. I mean, the fact that we would get an agreement out of this would be excellent for us on that in that regard. And that I think that would, as you say, I mean, that would give the U.S. a reason to say, this is it, okay? Vlad, yeah. You just basically stay where you are. We have given you all of this, but no more.
That's right.
You step one more foot over the line based on what we've agreed to, and we will come. The support we did not give to Ukraine militarily before will be very different this next time around.
Yeah, or we'll handle it ourselves.
Right. I mean,
you won't be dealing with Ukraine; you'll be dealing with us.
Right. Exactly. So I think this has changed. And you're right. I mean, we do learn things, with every war that we can hopefully apply to the next one. No one really wants wars, but they are somewhat inevitable in this world that is just all over the place. You just have
Right.
all kinds of things going on, and you cannot control all the countries and their actions, and despots and other dictators, and just the
Right.
things that they do, and how much they suppress people. So I'll be hopeful that I think what's better for the Ukrainian people in the end, and I think they would probably say too, is that they've suffered for 3+ years. I'm sure that they, as much as they hate to give the Russians an inch of territory, that they would probably overall, if it meant peace, they could rebuild the country. They get a little more backing from the U.S. security measure guarantees and things like that. Maybe that's the trade-off. It's kind of a steep price in a lot of ways, but that is it. I hope that what Putin has done here with this doesn't give anyone any other ideas. I think, especially with Trump in office, I think how he has shown, he said he wanted to end this war, and he's trying to make good on that promise. Where Biden had been fiddling around since the day they invaded, didn't really have an answer, right? So,
right. I was going to say to your point about, will others see that, you can gain like this, right? Will others try to use this? Well, that was done under Biden. Like they got their chips into Ukraine under Biden, right? They haven't tried to mess with Trump in this way. So that's a different, ball game. And I think that they understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that that they're actually in these negotiations now, which are serious negotiations, already is a recognition. Putin knows that once Trump was elected, the scene was going to change. It was not going to be. He wasn't going to be able to string this out forever and just wear down Ukraine and take everything over. That Trump wasn't going to have any of that. So I think that is something we're going to see an end to. I think hopefully Trump can find a way to get us a good resolution even in Israel. I still think that still needs to be, even with the ceasefire, and with the hostages, the Hamas is still there, which is something we prefer not to have. I mean, they don't deserve to still be in existence today after what they did.
Right. Well, they don't deserve to be there. They can go carry on somewhere else, but you're not going to sit on Israel's border lobbing rockets into Israel anymore. That's over. They've done that. Did you see the video that they put out about what Gaza is going to look like?
No, is this the MAGA Gaza thing kind of?
Yeah. Trump, the big gold statue of Trump, and they show Elon eating all the fancy restaurants, and it's unbelievable. I mean, they did, obviously, whoever did this, and I'm not sure who did it. I don't think Trump had anything to do with it, but it's somebody who understands the possibilities of the project and understands its transformative value. And I think that that's one of the things that's interesting about this is that I think they needed a visual thing. Hey, look what Gaza could look like, right? And this thing is there's a big gold statue of Trump, and there's a little lineup of little Trump statuettes, and then just little flashes. It's not the whole video, but just like all the images they threw in, and there's belly dancers and there's all this stuff. It's pretty wild. But you can say, okay, it's not just a beach and a bunch of blown out buildings, right? It's a project. It's a thing people are coming to. It's theaters, homes, restaurants, a nice time on a a beautiful, really should be a beautiful spot in the world.
All right. So while you're talking, I'm trying to. I was trying to look at it, and I saw some of the images on the internet.
It's pretty funny, and it's obviously provocative.
There's a building that says Trump Gaza.
Yeah, Trump Gaza. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, we live in just an incredibly crazy world at this point in time. I mean, this has been a whirlwind with President Trump on 2.0.
It's like, what I was thinking about this. It's like, every Christmas present you've asked for the last 20 years arrives in one day. there they all are. I can do anything, I got all my stuff. So because it just keeps coming,
Well, yeah, right. Which is what we've talked about for, the last month or whatever, in essence, is just that the amount of things that Trump keeps pushing out, proposals, ideas, things like that. I mean, he's got all these executive orders which have already made people's heads spin, and then he throws in a few other things about, oh, look, how about this or how about that, which are not executive orders, but just maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. Well, the media and the liberals, they go crazy, right? Which is probably exactly what he wants them to do, because it's just this constant barrage of things, and they're like, did you see that? Did you see that he's trying to do this at Gaza? Oh, wait a minute. He wants to do this over here too. He wants to
the Fed and China and
it's just
the border and the economy and the
the liberals. I mean, in the media, they have no idea where to focus their energy on, right?
Yeah, I'll give you one that's like on that. Okay, so I think it was yesterday. It was reported that the EPA administrator Lee Zeldin is going to ask Trump to remove what's known as the endangerment finding, where they found that CO2 itself was a danger, right? Which allowed them to regulate, air and stuff in an entirely different way, right? Is the linchpin of global warming theory, right? Of the government's response to global warming theory. And, it could well be gone by the end of the day, right? This landmark thing that has underpinned environmental law in the United States for years will be out the window, right? It'll go back to what it should be, right? That's a thing that our side has been calling for, as long as I've been doing this, and it's like poof, they're getting rid of
it. That's what has been. I think that's what really has kind of amazed me in the sense is just that we've been trying for decades. In essence, our side has been trying for decades to create a smaller government, make it more efficient, do all these things in theory. I mean, when the Republicans have controlled, the White House and, when they've controlled other levers of government, but have never gotten very far. And I don't know where we still have some unification problems, here and there, within our ranks. But overall, I think a lot of people have kind of gotten in line with Trump. Definitely, they're more in line with
Trump. Good example of that yesterday, right? They're trying to pass that budget resolution. They had to convince 4 people to switch their votes, and they convinced 3 of them in fairly short order, and that was enough.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, those 3 people were locked in against it, and they just called them up. What does it take to get you to vote yes? And they were able to work it out.
Yes, and of course, Thomas Massey being the holdout.
He's the one.
Yeah. He seems to be the real thorn in the side. I don't know what his campaign, what his plan is here, and all this. Because
he might be one of the people. He's talking about running for Mitch's seat in Kentucky. I don't think he can win it, but they elect Rand Paul, so they very well could.
Yeah, maybe that's what he's looking at.
Kind of an odd form of conservatism in Kentucky. It is both to the left and to the right of what we generally think of.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean it's there's no guarantee of what you're going to see in Kentucky because they will elect Democrat governors while they elect Republican senators.
Right.
It just and things like that. And I think it's one that the Republicans can generally count on to win for the presidential race, but they, other things are not necessarily so set in stone. I mean, yeah, you brought up Mitch's seat too, in a sense of that'll be interesting to see, exactly who winds up, really running for that as we get closer to that point in time, in terms of, who's, does Mitch have an anointed successor at this point in time, or is he going to wait this out and then say, this is the one, this is my endorsement is over here. I'm sure there are a lot of people on both sides that are going to be. They see this as a huge opportunity to jump in.
Yeah, Cameron, the former Attorney General, worked for Mitch.
I kind of like him.
Who was it? Barr. Andy Barr.
Yeah, Andy Barr. Yeah,
Yeah, he's thinking about it. So there's a few
yeah.
of them out there.
We're still in the early stages of something
Yeah,
like that. But Mitch has done the right thing by stepping down, by basically
right.
not running for reelection. Uh,
Yeah, there's no way he has 6 more years of productive lawmaking in him, you know.
something Joe Biden should have realized long ago.
I mean, you know, the thing about Biden is like he said, you know, transforming to the next level candidate. You know, I'm a transitional. I'm a transitional, you know, me, and then we move on to the younger generation. But then he's like, no, more me. We were like, nope, no more you.
It's a little bit in that sense. When you say that, though, then I would somewhat equate that with you know, what we saw when we had all these Republicans get elected to Congress starting what it was back in 1994. A lot of them made term limit pledges, right? I will serve for 2 terms, or I'll serve for 3 terms. And then they got to that mark where it was time for their 4 years or 6 years to be up, and they're like, they had selective memory loss. They don't remember saying that ever.
I still think I have something to contribute. It's a critical situation here. We can't abandon right now.
Yeah.
Right. The thing that is like, you know, as for term limits, if someone can explain to me what is the problem you're trying to solve with them and how do you think this solves them, then I could consider being for it. But right now, it's like your term limits are election day, right? Just go up there and vote for the other guy.
Yeah, I like the idea of term limits in some respects, and in other respects, it doesn't really move the needle any. I mean, look, you know Montgomery County politics more or less. You know, and so, you know, I'm sitting, you know, not today, but, you know, I live in a very, you know, blue county in a blue state. And, you know, it has been a long time, more than a decade or two. It's been so long, I can't even remember the last time we had any Republican elected officials in Montgomery County or representing Montgomery County in the state house. So, you know, this is, you know, so it's, you know, Maryland's truly a one-party state. Term limits, you know, in theory, right, would give the opportunity for Republicans to challenge a supposed newcomer and give them, maybe make the race a little more even. But the problem is that when you're out, you know, when you're outnumbered on the registration by somewhere a factor of like 3 to 1, you're so far behind the 8 ball that's going to be pretty tough. Montgomery County and local races, not as many people vote in local races, so you have some chance. I mean, and they did. I don't know, you know, Robin Ficker, you know, who's done a lot of interesting things throughout the state of Maryland. And that's why I say interesting. But I commend him for his perseverance on getting a term limits measure passed in Montgomery County on the county council. So at least it breaks up some of the long held Democrats, you know, who will just stay there forever. And would just
what happens is you get another Democrat, right? It's all Democrats now, right? Who was the last one? It was the lady from the Up County. She was from like Damascus. What was her name? Or Burtonsville or somewhere up there. Do you remember? It was on the county council. I believe she was the last Republican, and you know.
Well, okay. So yeah. Wait a minute. The last Republican I remember might have been Nancy Dasik.
Yeah. Where's she from? She's from up there at Burtonsville.
Yeah. She's not from where I am.
Right.
Yeah. And that's been a number of years. Yeah. So my encyclopedia, I should phone a friend and call Dwight Patel and say, Dwight, give me the info, because you know,
help us out here.
Dwight has this amazing recall of like the politicians in the area. It's ridiculous. And so, yeah, if you need any information, Dwight will usually know it. You know, he doesn't have to Google it; he just knows it.
He just knows it. Yeah.
So it's been a long time. I mean, you know, redistricting plays a little bit a part of it. The movement of people. I mean, you know, the 8th district of Montgomery County used to be, you know, represented by Connie Morella. But then, it was, the Democrats,
It was called commie.
yeah, right. But they but they rejiggered it to set up Van Hollen.
Right.
Roscoe Bartlett got bounced when
they screwed Roscoe Bartlett.
Yeah. So,
so people like, who aren't from around here. So what we're talking about is, so Roscoe Bartlett was, I think he's off the grid somewhere, right? Living up in the woods.
Very much so.
Yeah. And so he was one of like 3 PhDs in Congress. Very smart guy. And his district was from, you picture a map of Maryland in your head as this long, slender, panhandle, and then it goes down and gets a little wider at the bottom where you are, and where, and then toward Baltimore and the sea, right? So this guy, he had this whole slender thing that goes, goes almost to Pittsburgh, right? It's not even, you get to the end of Maryland, you're 60, 70 miles from Pittsburgh, right? So he has this, it's a mostly rural district, a district you'd think of as being, looking a lot like, Alabama or Tennessee or in districts in those kind of states. So what they did is they kept adding as it comes down the panhandle all the way till you get down in Montgomery County, and kept dipping into Montgomery County till you got enough leftists to vote him out. So now it's a very close race. Was the guy Neil Patel? What's his name? Neil Parrott, who runs up there. Yeah, he's made 2 close. He ran against David Trone, who owns Total Wine, and barely lost. And then he ran this last time and barely lost again. So that, they can keep it close, but they can't win it now. And Maryland, gerrymandering is legal and encouraged, and there's no one bats an eye about. Yes, we're party in power, and we're voting to change the district so that you can't win. They're very open about it. They don't care. They're down to 1 member of Congress who's Republican, who's an Eastern Shore guy. And the Eastern Shore is another kind of strange political animal, but it's mostly conservative, right? The people on the other side. So is that right? I mean, when you say
the home of Bob Bauman, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, we are what we are over here, but Maryland's a different kind of animal.
So I had to throw that out.
Yeah, that's right.
A blast from the past. Yeah, look, I mean, the whole when they redistricted Roscoe. Not that I want to get into a whole lot of things about Maryland politics in particular, but I was active with the Central Committee and such, and so Gaithersburg has a Labor Day parade. And so that first year when he was facing re-election with that newly redrawn district, he came to Montgomery County to march in that parade. Now, Roscoe was already, 80-something by that time anyway. I mean, he was already an elderly guy. But, it was really hard for him, to connect with anybody. I mean, he hadn't represented any of those people before. Nobody knew who the heck he was.
That's right.
I just felt bad for him. I do remember being in his congressional office once. I think we did an interview with our interns and just, all the pictures on his wall in his office, some of the great things of his past history and things that he had done, his accomplishments. We lost a great person there. When we talk about term limits, I mean, part of the trade-off or the thing is that sometimes it's those people and their institutional knowledge that you lose, and what kind of price do you put on that?
The other thing is some of the people I grew up with a guy, Shreveport people will know exactly who I'm talking about, named Thomas Carmody, who is he's good friends with Speaker Mike. They grew up in Shreveport politics together. Thomas has been term limited out of 2 political offices. He was on the Shreveport City Council. He could only serve two terms. Then he went into the state legislature, could only serve 2 terms. So here's a guy that all the voters like, right? Every time he runs, he wins, but they've decided arbitrarily, this is as long as you can go, right? And so I think about it, and he's one of the most decent people who's ever been in politics. And so when I see stuff like this, it's like I can't. It's like you have a rule that knocks out a Thomas so you can elect some of these people who get elected, and it's like that wasn't a good rule, right? Let us keep voting for who we want to vote for.
Yeah, I mean, California did that for their state legislature, and I think the Republicans kind of thought that, okay, well, like I said earlier about how it opens up potential seats for them to run against. But you look at California today, and there are fewer seats held by Republicans in the state legislature than there were pre-term limits. I'd say it's a failure for them overall. It backfired because they wound up losing a lot of good people. If you're a good candidate, and the demographics, the registration is not 3-to-1 or worse, you might stand a chance of you could do something. I mean, I can hark back to Connie Morello. I mean, you can say Connie Morello or whatever it was. The thing was is that when she got elected, nobody really gave her much of a chance. But what I remember from her first campaign was just that her door knocking. She went throughout the county and knocked on doors and did that. And I kind of equate that also to Larry Hogan. People didn't think Larry Hogan had a chance, even though Kathleen Kennedy Townsend was horrible. But he went around the state with Boyd Rutherford on a bus.
Yeah, I remember
and he
that.
got to know the people. And sometimes that grassroots kind of effort can make a difference with voters in a lot of cases. And it did.
The great Tom Davis, big time door knocker.
I think politics has shown that. I don't know if you ever knew Matt Waters. He works for Everly and Associates, and he worked for AIM for a little while when he first came up from Mississippi. But his wife, or his now ex-wife, it was Lori Cole, and she was working for Eagle Forum. She eventually kind of took over the DC office of Eagle Forum, and then I think it was after they got married or somewhere. I can't remember exact chain of events, but anyway, they were in Loudoun County, and this is before things got worse. I think in Loudoun County, is that she ran for Board of Supervisors position, but she door knocked the heck out of it, and she won. I think she was in there for a couple of terms or something or more, before they decided to decamp to Florida and whatever. But I don't know that I thought that she had a chance necessarily. I mean, she probably had a better chance than I would ever have in Montgomery County. But I think hasn't the politics in Loudoun County changed dramatically over the years anyway? I mean,
it was at one point. I mean, in the last 20 years, I'm not talking about the mist of time.
Yeah,
it was the most Republican county in the country, and then it went full leftist woke, and now it's come back some because the problem.
I mean, it's conservative enough that Eugene Delgadio can win election, right?
Right. It's now the richest county in the country too.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that fact. So that's So we also see those changes that occur, around the states of migration. People leaving California, going into Arizona, Utah, Idaho, whatever. They also leave Washington State, and they start changing the electoral politics sometimes in those states. Sometimes maybe more locally, rather than say a senator or a congressional seat. But there's definitely influences from other states in some of these more conservative states. There's pushback, but I keep thinking about how many years ago was it where the Democrats claimed that they were going to turn Texas blue?
Right.
And right.
They're falling farther behind. But they have done this with Colorado.
Yeah.
Colorado was a pretty conservative state, and they've completely flipped it.
Yeah, and Arizona is kind of it depends. I think
it's gray or whatever. Purple.
Purple. Yeah, but I definitely think it tends to lean more liberal. It drives my sister-in-law crazy, because she's been there for a long time and she's just seen that shift, going on there. Spencer used to talk about it too, and kind of the mess about the Arizona Republican Party was just. That's the other thing too, is that if your state party mechanism is not good, you will have it'll be a problem. I mean, I think that was a problem in Michigan where they, in terms of putting up formidable, good candidates. I mean, to actually get them over the finish line was that their state party, in Michigan had been kind of a complete mess for a number of years. They've really just had a lot of fighting going on, and I think there's claim, whether or not they've even had any money and stuff like that. So, it's politics at its best is when Republicans fight against each other. It never fails.
That's right. Although I would say, like you're talking about Arizona, voter registration numbers are very positive for Republicans there.
Yeah. So,
the last 3 or 4 years has really been profound shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's, though I think, I kind of wonder with like Kristen Sinema, I think she just had it with the way Arizona politics had become for when she was elected. It just was, the liberal left was just unrelenting and unreasonable.
Right. See, that's the thing is, like, all these people say, we need people who are down the middle. We don't want people far to either side. But when you get people who try to split the baby, like Kristen Sinema, they're rejected. Right? Neither side, we can't trust her, and the other side can't trust her. So she ends up, a pinata. She ends up getting beat up by everybody.
Yeah. What was was he from Georgia? You remember that he was he a former senator, or what was it? He gained a lot of national fame. I can't remember. I wish I could remember his name, but he became a conservative darling. But he was kind of part of a blue dog Democrat coalition. The Democrats have squeezed those people out.
Yeah, that's right.
The
Jim Coopers of the world. That's right.
Yeah. Even
Gary Peters retiring in Michigan. That shows you that, that's a fairly moderate guy. Like, that's not what we want.
Yeah. To bring up, Heath Schuler, former football player, never had the career that they envisioned for him in the NFL. I would say he was a kind of that moderate blue dog Democrat type. And, he was in North Carolina, right? And he just quit. It's just like, it was too much. So, the media and the left, they talk about Trump and how he's remade the Republican Party. And I think he has remade the Republican Party. But they also forget what they have done to the Democrat Party over that period of time.
Right.
Can you have a Daniel Patrick Moynihan or Scoop Jackson today? Could they win election? I don't know that's the case anymore.
Russell Long.
Long, yeah. You got people in Louisiana. So it's a very different landscape that we have. So you mentioned earlier about this narrow passage of the House resolution for the budget bill. What's your take on, are they going to be able to actually get a final bill passed and send that to the Senate, or is Johnson going to be able to make this work, or what's your take from?
Well, I thought the big hill to climb was the one the other day. I think that now it's just a matter of, it's within the parameters of what people, it's got, the bill's not going to get too much worse, right? And what comes out of the Senate than it is now, and the people who they barely got over the line, I think, will stay on the right side of the line.
So is the rule that he has to have 218, or does
no? This was 217, 215.
They just have to pass the budget.
They've got to win the vote. Yeah,
they just win the vote, and they can send it on to the Senate.
Right.
And then they can wrangle.
Then they can wrangle. It'll be wrangling, and there'll be a little of it that we throw up over, but it'll be all right.
Yeah, but and
if it's not, if the Democrats want to, make a scene out of this and try to force a shutdown, it'll be the first time in our lifetimes that they will truly own a shutdown, and they can explain to the American people their petulance and their reason for it. Yeah, that's right.
Seriously.
Right.
I agree. That's very true. So, Elon Musk continues to just do whatever
amaze and amuse.
And, I don't know. I have some empathy for federal workers in the sense of, how you all of a sudden you get these emails. But on the other hand, I think it's rather amusing, because if you see his X account, his Twitter account, he throws off these funny little missives out there, and says, I want 5 bullet points on this or something,
Yeah, he's been pretty funny about it.
He's actually quite humorous on X, on Twitter. with what he says on that. I mean, he's so embraced the role on Doge and
Yeah.
doing this, and he
Showed
says,
up at
look,
the cabinet meeting yesterday with a T-shirt that said "Tech Support."
and we're and he admits we're going to make mistakes, and I think that they have made some missteps, and they're trying to correct those missteps. Maybe
People keep saying, "Hey, he made a mistake. He must be fired." It's like, you don't think that anybody in the Biden administration made any mistakes? You didn't hear about it because they didn't correct it, because they didn't admit it, right? What did he do? He admitted it and he fixed it. Like, yeah, we hired them right back.
Yeah,
there's no gap in our Ebola coverage, right? We just fixed it immediately. I thought like the candor of that was remarkable.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think still for me, the bottom line is that, he has gone at this, thinking about the chainsaw he held up at CPAC, is just that he's cutting through all this government. Now, there's mistakes will be made when you do that, when you bore through this, because with 2.4 million workers, you're not going to be as exact as you probably would. If you have 100 workers, you can figure this out pretty quickly where the fat is, and then cut the fat or whatever. But with 2.4 million workers, we just don't really know. I mean, as Trump, I think, also kind of tried to back up Musk about the emails. You have to answer this email within 5 days or a day or two, and if you don't, you could get furloughed or fired or whatever. He's like, do we know if they're there? I don't know if they're there. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I don't know if they're still working for the government. The government is so inefficient. Email accounts could still be active, payroll accounts could still be active, and we just don't know about it.
Right. That's like the leftists keep saying, it's already illegal to give Social Security to illegals, right? It's like, yeah, but they're getting it. So we still got work to do there. We can't just say, hey, we're done. And, whoever's doing it can get away with it. So, I mean, it's like you got to really make them honor their words.
Yeah. So as a son of a former federal worker, I mean, it's like, I'm all for this effort. I know it hasn't been and not going to be neat and tidy overall,
right?
But we are seeing examples of things where, yeah, look, we've got, there's just excess employees, and the numbers grew under Biden, and the government is just in this ridiculous phase of just, they keep adding workers. Part of it, when you don't have to balance your budget, technically,
right,
you just keep doing things. You spend and you tax and you just add staff, and you're like,
now they're finding they've given something like $39 million to Obama since he left the White House.
Why? Yeah, what was all that about? That was just crazy.
And they've given $250 million or so to Soros. How is that? You haven't found any waste, fraud, and abuse. Yeah, heck, they haven't.
Yeah, what was it? That money to Obama was something that was related to Obamacare or something like that, right? That's what
it was. It was paying him something about a book. Yeah. What did he say? Something about a sledgehammer?
Oh, sorry, I went too quickly. Here we go.
Right. But I mean, everybody's going to go, I agree with what they're doing. It's just like how they're doing it. Well, the other ways of doing it didn't produce anything. Right. I mean, whoever else has tried to do this, they haven't gotten anywhere because they tried to do the scalpel, and they try to be sensitive to all the needs of all the people and all that kind of stuff. If you're going to do this, there's a lot of pain, at the start, and then it'll balance itself out. It'll be fine. But right now is the painful part, right? People are actually losing their jobs. Things that you counted on government to do, it's going to stop doing or not do as much of. Right. And things are changing. It's a change. They're not going to have, some of the offices are not going to be there. Some of the officers are not going to be there. Right. And you got to go through that. When you get to the other side of it, then you can judge what was cut too much. Right. And start trying to build it back. But it's, the first thing that has to happen is the sledgehammer, and get it out of here and start again.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Bob's comment was good on that, because you're right too. It's just that, this go slow and take a little bit here and there. Those are rounding errors. I mean, those are just not affecting the bigger numbers. But Elon they're
If that worked, if that philosophy worked, we wouldn't need Elon. He would have never come up.
Right, exactly. And it's how long would it take? How long would it take to go through that process? Well, we've been watching it for decades because it's been tried, and we've got the government's only bigger than it was before. So it's obviously been that approach has been a failure because the government has continued to grow in size. Government spending has continued to skyrocket, and we are just getting closer and closer to this dire situation. What do we say? We're up to 36 trillion in debt or something like that. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. So wasn't it? Weren't we talking about 16 trillion under Obama or something like that at the time?
Yeah.
Granted that the pandemic made some things worse, but it's we're more than double where we were not that long ago.
Right.
Because
it's the bigger the problem becomes.
Right. Just numbers I didn't even think were even fathomable a few years ago. We just keep doing that. So 40 trillion. Yeah, that's on the horizon.
Yeah.
Unless we do that sledgehammer, we're going to blow past that number, very quickly.
That's right.
So it's a problematic thing. Yeah. So Elon, for me, keep doing what you're doing overall. It's the reaction from the liberal left is all I need to know as to how I should feel about Elon at this point in time. I mean, for a guy that used to kind of drive me crazy years ago, I'm like, okay, I love this now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and who knew, who suspected that we would get to this point in our life or would see something like this? But I'm hoping that the Trump supporters, are okay. Now, I will throw out there, I mean, there are some Republican legislators have been taking some heat, right, at some town halls or whatever.
Yeah, for some Democrat activists paid to be there. But see, all the paid to be theirs are starting to dry up, right? You see those crowds getting smaller and smaller. You see all the senators standing out in front of the Department of Justice. They're like, we're not letting this thing be compromised. And there's like 7 senators out there, and there's maybe 5 people watching them. It was like, a 1/6 of your caucus draws 5 people. Like, people don't care anymore. They're not. The Democrats are in the position. That's the other thing that Trump has done. It's been absolutely brilliant. He has the Democrats defending open borders, Venezuelan gangs, waste, fraud, and abuse. All this stuff that are impossible. Trans surgeries for kids, right? Boys and girls sports. The governor of Maine is going to stake her political career on insisting that boys be allowed to play girls sports and go through girls locker rooms. That is her line in the sand. I mean, that's incredible to me.
Yeah. Didn't you love it when he called out the Maine governor?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I see you in court. Yeah, I will see you in court. Like, what are you doing? What are you defending? How is that the hill you die on?
Yeah, I think she started some kind of fundraising campaign, right, to kind of fight back against this.
Yeah,
like, Trump he's going to bully me on this.
He's going to bully me. Save me the being bullied.
No, it's been absolutely amazing to watch this as it develops right in front of our eyes on this, and I don't know. I mean, he's put he's put all these. Loyalists, in the cabinet.
Loyalists. He should have to pick people who hate him and want to undermine his every move.
Trump, this is where Trump is changing things too, because Trump is not necessarily. He didn't necessarily say I have to put people in my cabinet as a political payback or political favor.
Right.
Some that are not necessarily equipped to do the job. I think he learned a lot, from his first term, and this time around it is the no holds barred kind of thing like that. And so he's in there and he's put people who will carry out his wishes, and unlike, I mean, what a difference between his cabinet and the Biden cabinet, or you can his cabinet and the last Obama cabinet,
right?
It's so different in what they are doing along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I hate to
Speaking
have
of problems with Montgomery County.
no, yeah, we have now come back to Montgomery County. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I try to forget about Jamie Raskin when I can. It just makes you want to pull your hair out with some of these people in Montgomery County. But those are the hardcore guys. I mean, Raskin is one of the hardcore guys, and
Yeah, Chris Murphy. Yeah,
yeah.
he runs from camera to camera, like telling how much he hates Trump.
But when you look at 2016 and then you look at 2024 election, and now you're going to 2025, it's like, what happened to the resistance from the left against Trump? Because you mentioned nobody's showing up for any rallies. They can't get anybody to come out. The people they're just like, no. It's like you threw up a failed candidate. Your ideas are
Mismanaged.
Yeah, your ideas are horrible. Give me something I can support. They got nothing, and so
right. Well, so there's increasing talk on the right that says the reason they have nothing is because the left was pretty much fully funded by USAID and other, the money for the left comes from the government, right? That's why they're paying Obama and paying Soros and paying all these people. It's actually government money or taxpayer dollars funding leftist activism all over the country, all over the world, in fact. So I think when Trump started shutting down these funds, right, USAID and so forth, right, he literally took their ability to write checks away. So that's really what a lot of what they're mad about. And so what's left of the actual movement? Not a whole lot. Yeah, so it's Sheldon, all white beach club guy. Yeah, that's right. His wife, right? He's also voting to funnel money to the organization his wife runs, like $2.9 million of salary to her directly, and millions to the Ocean Conservancy, which is her thing, far left environmental group. Just turns around and funds other far left environmental groups.
I don't know if he's a crook and a hypocrite or a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's out there. Yeah, every time I see something about Sheldon Whitehouse, I'm like, come on. It's just like, why is anybody listening to you?
And he's really interested in attacking that one black judge. A guy who belongs to an all-white beach club to just be obsessed with Clarence Thomas. I don't want to say nothing. Rhymes with hacism.
Wait, maybe that's what we can use in the show. Is like, we'll just say rhymes with hacism. The Democrats are they bring up that word that rhymes with hacism. I like that. I might have to. I'll try to remember that. It's in my muddled mind. I did want to bring up another thing too. We continue as we roll along here. I just saw this thing about Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins about how she was going to try to work on these egg prices. This was going to be tough. But what I liked about what I saw was just that they're going to try to find money or funnel money into figuring out how to deal with this bird flu situation that has just killed so many chickens and whatnot. And to me,
so it hasn't really killed that many chickens, but a lot of chickens were killed so they would not catch it.
Right. Well, the thing is that right. The problem is that if it's detected in just some of the flock, right, basically as a safety measure, you have to kill others. It's not that 100. It's not like if you had say 50 chickens in your flock, but say 3 were infected, numbers are going to be reported as 50 killed because they're taking precautionary measures, even if the other 47 were okay. But that's the way they have to do it to do that. So yeah, not every chicken bird was infected with it, but you can't take the risk that it would spread. But I kind of like the fact that she's trying to find money, or will find money, to try to address this issue head on. Because I don't really, under Biden, I just didn't see anything there. It's just like, well, egg prices are high because we have this bird flu. It's kind of that's the way I read it. It's like, well, if we've got this problem. Why can't we pump some money into trying to find a way to mitigate this somehow? And so it sounds like the agriculture department is serious about trying to find a way to take care of, at least to reduce the incidences of bird flu.
Right.
So good for her. I mean, I think that's another, win, or at least a progress on the part of the Trump administration trying to do something about a problem rather than just excusing it away.
Right.
For everything. I did want to say bye Joy Reid. I mean, I think that's a good way to close this out before you give your comments.
Yeah.
Her
Lester Holt and a couple of others, right?
Lester Holt left his position. Yeah, we've already seen Chuck Todd leave. Nora O'Donnell stepped back.
Katie Fong. I don't know how you say that. She lost the show.
I mean, Alex Wagner got reassigned as a reporter for the show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, MSNBC itself has made a lot of shakeups.
They're trying to get the cost down so they can sell it. They want out of the business. They backed the wrong pony. They know it, and as business people, as well as ideologues, they're feeding the business people side of their ego on this one, right? But it was, she wasn't. But the interesting reaction on that one, the right held, the right was happy with it, but the left, all these reporters came out. So I've never learned anything from people the way I learned from Joy Reid. She was such a great friend and colleague and all this stuff. And so it was like she was sort of like some kind of intellectual powerhouse of the network. And if that's the case, if that's your intellectual powerhouse, then this may in fact be worse than we thought.
No, I mean, did you see I don't know if you saw the reaction. She, on her final show, she had Maddow, Nicole Wallace, and Lawrence O'Donnell on, right?
Yeah.
And she went off on a rant, right? And then they chimed in, and how they saw how supportive they were of her and how disappointed they were that her show was canceled. But you see Nicole Wallace. I mean, she used to work for Bush, right? For the Bush 1, and she says, "I feel like I'm losing a limb." I'm like, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what is wrong with these people?
Yeah.
And so and then Maddow has continued her criticism since then of that. And O'Donnell, on that clip, he says, he's already kind of had his goodbye. So instead, he chose to read from Joy Reid's book and then kind of recounted all these things that she wrote about, like the civil rights movement. So then he's bringing up all these civil rights things, right, from the 60s and whatnot. And I'm like, I'm not quite sure I'm not sure what the relevance here was of this. So they were struggling, I mean, Joy Reid for the conservatives won't be missed. The liberals are having their little rant moment, but that's that. I think. But the thing was is that, I mean, she'd had a previous show of hers canceled years ago before by MSNBC, and then got, I think she was doing some reporting, and then they created a new show for her.
Right.
But, in the era of Trump, these shows don't resonate.
Right. That's right. Just raw Trump hate doesn't resonate. If you can package it as news, right? It's like, well, the news is, and then you spit out news that doesn't reflect. You can get away with that, but I mean, Trump's the public opinion on what he's doing is good. I mean, he's not losing points. He's staying high in the polls. The individual, approval of what he's doing is way up there. I mean, the notion that the country hates this just because the left says they hate it is not true. Yeah.
All right. I think we've reached the end. Why don't you wrap it up here?
Let's see what is on here. So we should get the minerals this afternoon. The SCOTUS allowed the slap down the meddling attorneys with this ruling that Trump does not have to spend the USAID money. They're way out over their skis, and it'll take a while for the SCOTUS to get to them all, but they'll lose every time. Trump will win all of those things. Brandon Johnson, most important mayor of Chicago, most unpopular politician in the country, 6.6%. Bongino.
I mean, how much lower can you go, right? You're at 6.6%. I mean, it's like
that's your mom and your aunt and the people in your church, right? You tell me about Bongino. You think that's a good catch?
I think it's an interesting situation. I mean, Bongino, I have had, when he ran for Congress, I had been at several of his campaign stops and I got to know him a little bit. He's a smart guy. He can be a little bit brash and at times and things like that. But I think he does care about security issues and things like that. I think he's got. I mean, I think this will be really, really interesting to see him in that role. I mean, he has some Secret Service background and things like that.
Yeah. He's not totally unprepared for it. I'll give you that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's totally unprepared. I mean, and it's driving the left crazy, so that's even better.
That's even better. So Jake Tapper writing a book about hiding Biden's cognitive decline when he was like a principal hider of Biden's cognitive decline. I almost want to buy that book just to see, like, just to hold true BS in my hands, just to see what it's like. Carville's prediction is not looking too good, but don't count him out. There's a long way to go in his 30 days. But I think probably the most interesting, the Pope appears to be pretty sick and near the end. Prayers for the Pope. But I think the most interesting story left on this list is the thing that Bezos put out, the saying that the Washington Post editorial page is going to be devoted to what was it? Individual liberty and the promotion of business or something.
Yeah, I have it somewhere. I mean, it's driving the left crazy.
Yeah, like he's robbed our paper. No, he bought your paper.
Yeah,
he owns your paper, and he owns it, so he could put in it what he wants, and that doesn't take your freedoms away.
Yeah, I'm trying to find this, but the problem is I've got I don't know if you do. I've got a gazillion things open over here. I'm just like, yeah, it was just, I thought it was just amazing when I saw that.
Yeah.
that we were, I mean, he was the guy that, they have that democracy dies in darkness on the masthead, right? Apparently that was his idea, right?
Right. He bought it to fight Trump in 2016.
Right. And now now we're seeing something completely different from him like that.
Yeah.
Here it is. Here's the thing. Let me see. Wait a minute.
I mean, as somebody who's like been in the newspaper business my whole life, it is absolutely stunning to see these things happening.
I thought it was in here. I'm trying to scroll through this political article because that's what I thought it came up front, but it's actually buried. I think it's buried in here somewhere. Yeah, I can't see it in the article. Too much to read. So that's enough.
All right, we're way over anyway.
Yeah, we're a little over anyway. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America. And we will be back with you probably next week. I'm still traveling, so I will update you. We're gonna shoot for another Thursday, but I'll have to see what the schedule looks like. So with that, we're done. Thanks a lot, everybody.